We need a coffee break. And if you would like to buy the Don a cup of coffee, go ahead because we're letting it happen.
Visit www.buymeacoffee.com/The Dawn of Wrestling.
If you got $1, $10, $20, $30, $40, $50, a C note, a $100,000 note.
www.buymeacoffee.com/The Dawn of Wrestling.
And salute to all who contribute to this cup of coffee.
This week on the Friend of Ours podcast, your favorite quotes. That's right, the most informative, opinionated, and downright hilarious quotes from the show thus far. Let's do it.
Hey, tough guy, why don't you come out from the fence to see how tough you are? I went to climb a 6-foot fence. They ripped my jacket off me, keeping me in that place. And I told them all, I said, I will kill all you motherfuckers. So I went ballistic, and they had to calm me down, and they had to pull me in the building. The next day, I get a phone call from my brother, and my brother says, hey, did you get into a fight last night? I said, yeah. I said, how'd you know? He said, I got Julio's. He says, yeah, they're looking for you. They want to kill you. I says, you kidding? He says, no, the old man flew out of here and they went down to 18th Avenue. I said, they're having a sit down right now. He says, the people, the wise guys and everybody from Gargiulo's are there. They want you. They want you dead. What wound up happening in the sit down was they asked him, they said, the guy didn't do anything wrong. He went to break up a fight. He said, you're a made guy. What are you doing fighting in the middle of the street? And you were part of the social club, the coffee place that was next door to Gargiulo's. Well, something got out of hand. Yeah, so the guy didn't do anything wrong. He was just doing his job. And by the way, you can't touch him. So that was another time where they wanted to kill me. The guy came to the gym at night and they had somebody with him and I dropped my gym bag. And the guy says, I'm not here to start no fights with you. Just calm down. He says, I just wanted to let you know it's a misunderstanding and you're barred from Gargiulo's for life. Don't ever show your face there. So I said, okay.
I wonder, because I've even heard you in conversation talking about the old days, not talking about anything current, folks, talking about the old days. And you made reference to, so-and-so could use a good slap in the teeth. But then we have the situations where you actually punch somebody. How do you make the distinction between a slap and a punch? And what do they actually mean? What's the symbolism of each action?
Well, if you're having to sit down and somebody, during the sit down gets out of line, giving an open hand slap is more or less like a wake up call. Hey, I'm not taking your shit. I'm going to fucking destroy you. Or you're going to wind up outside a second floor window or a sixth floor window. The other thing is when somebody needs to be straightened out, you don't do it in front of anybody, but you do it at a time when both of you are alone. And, if you have to, wise them up and you throw them a beating, then, that's how you, make the difference of an open hand slap, a wake up call, or if you're going to be a stubborn son of a bitch, I'm going to take a sledgehammer and try to crack your head open. I'm going to headbutt your face if you get in my face. And you're not going to disrespect me no matter nowhere, no how, no matter how many guys you got behind you. I'm standing tall and I don't need a backup. I'm Vito LoGrasso. I'm going to come after you. The one thing that used to drive me crazy, and I used to crack somebody when they used to say this to me, and my brother would probably laugh. Do you know who I am? Crack. I really don't give a fucking shit. I can make a phone call. Crack. Go ahead, make your fucking phone call now. Go ahead. You want me to dial the number for you? I'll have guys here in a little bit. Crack. Go fuck yourself. Now what? Now that you got your ass kicked in front of everybody and now you're going to make a fucking phone call for what? What are you going to do now? It wasn't like I never, hit somebody before because they were a jerk off. It's just the fact that you want to fucking say this so you could be a big guy, but then in reality, you know, you got no fucking balls. You're living on somebody else's reputation. And do you know who I am? No, I don't. If I knew who you were, then we wouldn't be having this conversation. But because you want to pull out your phone, want me to make a phone call? Crack. Now make your fucking phone call. So, I mean, that's the way it used to be. And when you used to have to be, lay into people, I fucking got heavy with people. And when I used to have to kick somebody's face in, I kicked somebody's face in. When it came time to go and do certain things, do certain jobs, I friggin' did it.
Edie Falco is a very pretty lady, and she played a lot of different parts. Right when she was in Oz, totally different, and when she was in that
Nurse Jackie.
Yes, Nurse Jackie. That's exactly what I was going to do. That was another different character that she played. But when she played Sopranos, she had a good look of what a wife should look like. She always had her hair done. Her nails were done. She was upkept. She was, she's a beautiful lady, and it was something that went good with her. And it's just like being the president's wife. You have to have a certain look to be with the president. You're on a scale where you're watched, and when you're on a scale where people look, and that's just the way it is.
But this episode, we are going after one of the more complex, completely interesting, crazy characters who was also beloved. And we're talking about the one, the only Corrado Jr. Soprano. First and foremost, Vito, before we get too specific, when you think about the Uncle Jr. character, does that guy remind you of anyone that you've ever met in your life?
I would have to say it reminds you of Vinny the Chin Gigante, somebody who was out of the limelight, wore a bathrobe, walked around, had dementia, couldn't think straight, but he was the underboss and he ran things from afar, was the brains of the operation. And, when it came to being the head of the family, Tony took all the flack. Tony ran everything, took care of Uncle June. He got a piece. I know he was under indictment. It all got taken care of. There was conflict. But when you talk about being smart and being the boss, but not being the boss, being the silent figure, Uncle June, Vinny the Chin, it's not like the other gangsters that were out there. You talk about my uncle Lucky Luciano. He was out there. You talk about some other great guy like, Carlo Gambino, or you're talking about John Gotti. You talk about Paul Castellano, who were out there. You talk about, some of the gangsters from Al Capone, who was notoriously out there. Uncle June was more suppressed, kept a low profile. That's because he was from the old school. You got to keep quiet. Got to make everything, hush hush. No fur coats, no parties, no this, no that. Everybody knows you run things, and when it came time to take care of business, you did your thing, right? And that's how Uncle June wanted to run things. And when things needed to be done, they were done, and that was it. I could tell you, being at this stage of my life and being not 150, but a calmed down version of Vito, and being dignified and, a gentleman, and, just being quiet. People stick a finger in my face more being like this than I've ever seen in my life. And I hate it to death. And it bothers me that they have the audacity to do these things. And then if I erupt, they look at me like I'm the scariest animal on the face of the earth because they don't know how to handle it. At my job, I have people who are disrespectful to me. And I have to tell you, people, when they flip you off I look at that as the biggest disrespectful, most disrespectful thing you could ever do to me is give me the finger or stick it in my face or tell me to go fuck myself, especially when I'm being a gentleman. And I look at them and I have to control myself because I want to rip your lungs out or smash your face or throw you through a glass door. And I have to be that guy who just like turns the other cheek. And I come home and I talk to my partner in crime, Miss Noel, and she can't believe people actually do this. And if I was an asshole in life and I was, wasn't nice and quiet and humble the way I am now, I dare people to do this to Vito 20 years ago.
So before we really dig into the specifics, from a general standpoint, Vito, what's your perspective on Ralph Cifaretto?
Well, Ralph is, there's two Ralphs. There's Ralph who's an awful person. Then there's Ralph who is, a concerned good person. But being the two evils, the bad outweighs the good. And when you look at Ralph, he comes off as a big scumbag on the show. I mean, no question about it. His earning capabilities and what he brought to the family were exemplary. They were, pristine. He was the man who made the money for the family. When it came to horse betting, when it comes to construction jobs, when it came to, there was a figure thrown, $3 million a year he brings to the family, all the no-show jobs and work and things. But he was scummy in the way he did business when he beat Paulie, for the code to a job that they had, and Paulie was sinking 50,000. And then when things were going bad in the family, when somebody got hurt or somebody got beat up, he would make these jokes, and the guys didn't like it, and they wanted to beat the shit out of him.
The Sopranos did a fantastic job of showing from different perspectives how children are affected by the decisions that their adults around them make. So, yeah, AJ and Meadow, who were Tony Soprano's kids, of course we're going to talk about that. But Vito and I had a conversation, and we both agreed the best example of what it's like to be a kid who's born into the life is Jackie Aprio Jr.
Jackie Aprio Jr., like you said, he was rich. His father was a mob boss. And, of course, all mob bosses don't want their kids to follow in their footsteps. I mean, that's taken true to heart. That is definitely, they want better for their kids. And, this being the fact with Jackie Aprio Jr., he was smart, he had brains, he had good looks, he was, studying to be a doctor, he went to the best college, and he had potential to be something great in the world. When his father died, he thought he was entitled to be the successor. Now, Tony Soprano, being his friend, wasn't going to let this happen, and it didn't let it happen because you don't let a kid who's just 18, 19 years old, I believe that's how old he was, take over a family, especially somebody who doesn't have the experience, the know-how, the look, the savoir-faire, the connections, because at that age, if you have power, you're running wild in the streets and you're trying to be a gangbanger and trying to, thinking you're a wise guy, but all you're doing is being a target. And that's what ended up happening to him, Jackie Aprio Jr., when he didn't, follow the rules.
Vito, you and I had a conversation before we were recording, and you had pointed out that you knew guys who were exactly like Phil Leotardo, and you couldn't stand them. So I'm going to give you the mic here. Talk to me more about the Phil Leotardos that you came up with, and what was it about them that rubbed you the wrong way?
When you talk about the Phil Leonardos, like, especially back then, the guy put in his time, and you respect that. But when you're an arrogant prick and a smug piece of shit, and you want to come off like you're still living in the past, when there were other guys who came up just like you, did the same things just like you, but they didn't get to go in the can for 20 years because maybe they were a little smarter, they did things a little safer, or you don't show the respect that to these young guys, you just come across as an asshole. And you think because you came out of the can, hey, yeah, it's like being a retired Marine or retired, somebody in the armed forces. Thank you for your service. We still know you're here, but the things aren't going to run the way you used to do it because there's a new way of doing it. When I used to come across these guys, of course I'd shake their hand, how you doing? And they, yeah, yeah, yeah. I would just make my way, but then like I would be like, you know what, go fuck yourself because you're still a fucking arrogant prick. You know what I mean? And just because you still might be connected doesn't mean you don't have to show people respect because this thing of ours is built on respect. It's not built on the reputation that I'm going to kill you because there's somebody else who will pull a trigger or stab you in the neck or do something to you to get that street cred and rep and then take over your crew and then take over things from you. And that's how it's not supposed to be done, but it is. When he had a talk, people listened. When he was in the company of others in public, he was respected. He didn't come off like he had to be a tough guy or he had to, show who he was. The one time that he did, lose his cool, let's say the time that somebody was laughing in a bar about his wife's joke and then he went outside and he said, you think it was funny? You think you're laughing at something? Then he kicked the shit out of the guy, pissed on him, and then, you know, she went home and did his business. I mean, if you remember that episode, it was pretty epic, and that's when somebody had made a comment about his wife.
When I look at a guy like Johnny Sack, and I'm glad you brought it up, Vito, the name of the episode is called The Wait. Now, folks, it's the 43rd episode of The Sopranos, right? This is the HBO series. So anyone who wants to go back and take a look or even check it out for the first time, it's episode 43. There are only 86 episodes, so it's literally right in the middle of the whole series there. Specifically, it was the fourth episode of the fourth season. So let's start with the characters first here, Vito. Lefty. This is a guy, he's seasoned, he's been around, he's trusted, he's respected. He's a guy who trains the younger guys on how to be a gangster, right? How to live
Right.
the life properly. But at the same time, Lefty is a degenerate gambler. Everybody knows it, which is why he's always trying to bum money off of people and what have you, because as soon as he gets a buck in his hand, he's going out to play the numbers or bet on sports or whatever. He was just that kind of guy. And because of that, he lived a pretty modest life. Think about that character, Vito. How
Right.
many times throughout life have you run into people like Lefty where they're like a fixture? They're always around. They're that guy. You get a kick out of him, what have you. But at the same time, you understand the reason why he's not a bigger deal than he is.
That's one of the reasons why I moved out of Staten Island in 2006 because it was the same old guys talking about the same old bullshit, sitting on the same old bar stools in the same old clubs. And I didn't want to live that lifestyle no more. I wanted something more for myself. And being back then in Staten Island and me had being a part of the community and being in all the clubs there, you knew who was who, and it was just the status quo. And everybody, from Staten Island went to New Jersey for the summer. Whether it was Jenkinson's in Point Pleasant or Club B or But there comes a point where you just say, "Hey, I got to break away from this." And
When you think about the movie Casino and all the things that happened, knowing after the fact that this was all based on real characters and real things that happened. Um, how do you rank that movie? How do you rank it in the discussion of all time great mob movies?
It's up there in the top 10 for sure. And I say top 10, guys, because there's a wide variety of mob movies that you like. Can you say, hey, this one's number one, this one's number two? I can't really say that, but if I put them all in a category of top 10, not giving anybody any favoritism, because I'm a mob historian, I'm related to the mob. I, had associations. So, guys, I mean, it's there for the taking. And you really can't say, hey, this was number one, this was number two. But you look at it with realism of how things are done in the real world. I think Tulsa King is a more realistic outlook on a mafia lifestyle than, say, Sopranos. I think Tulsa King brings a more realistic look at how things done instead of the John Gotti era Sopranos. I think that Tulsa King brings it to a more real life attribute as to what is going on in today's society.
At first glance, it doesn't come off as a typical wise guy type of show. It's very modernized. They tell the story of the area out there in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And from an economic standpoint, the types of businesses they have, the type of people they have, and the way that their lifestyles are and what have you. The show really focuses a lot on what Tulsa actually is all about. And then you have this outside figure who spent 25 years locked up, New York mafia guy. He gets out of jail and he's sent to set up shop in Tulsa, which is literally like the last place you would think Vegas, you would think Florida, LA, but these are places that have already been set up long ago. No one knows what the hell's going on in Tulsa, Oklahoma. No one would ever think that wise guys would be setting up shop out there. And yet that's what this show revolves around.
I've been in a lot of situations where like I've had to bite my tongue, pull myself away, excuse myself from a situation. You're not cowing down because in today's society, everybody's got the right to carry. Everybody's got the right to have a weapon. It's not the old days where you're going to throw hands. Now, if it's in your place and you're with a lady, you excuse yourself, you get your lady home, you go back and you say, okay, motherfucker, now what? Now, if you're going to have your boys with you, that's one thing. But if you go in there by yourself, you get much more street cred than you ever think. And Vito LoGrasso didn't need the backup. I went back by myself. And I would go, okay, motherfucker, let's take this, let's do something now. Because now I don't have a responsibility on my shoulders and I don't have to worry about anybody else. I just got to worry about Vito. And, in that situation, when people are watching, they watch you leave and they say, that's something's not fucking right. Vito would never do that, but they see I'm with somebody. But when they see Vito come back and they say, okay, motherfucker, let's go, you and your fucking boys, and they back down from you by yourself, you made a statement and a half.
So what is it about the American Italian culture where hitting the gym, getting a nice tan, hitting up the clubs, why is this such a big thing?
It's a lifestyle. It's the way you do things, in the summertime, especially if you're at the Jersey Shore or if you were back in Staten Island or Long Island, or any club area, gym tan laundry. That thing has been around for a long time. When you're going to the gym, you're going to the beach to get a tan, your laundry's done, you're looking good, you're feeling good. Then you go out at night and show off the goods, and your fresh whites. You're dancing the night away and you're drinking, having a good time. What do you get up and do the next morning? You go up, get in the gym, work on the bod, take a shower, hit the beach, show off the bod, get a little tan going, have a couple of drinks, go back, take a little snooze, then get ready for a night of dancing and good times with the ladies.
Unbelievable. Because all that Jersey Shore stuff that we saw, the heyday of MTV and what have you, and that was a big thing, that reality show. There was some truth to some of that stuff, huh?
Yeah, but you know what? That stuff has been around before the Jersey Shore, and that stuff was the basis of the show. So when you talk about gym tan laundry, that was done years before Jersey Shore even became a thing.
This is an official document. I have seen it. I actually have a copy of it, digital copy of it. It's fantastic. And this is public record. So this is something that anybody can go and research and pull up and what have you from the archives, U.S. Department of Labor. But it is the naturalization paperwork of Vito's great grandfather. So Giuseppe Luciano is his name, and everyone called him Joe. So Vito, I guess this puts it to bed, man. You haven't been blowing smoke. You haven't been BSing at all. This is the truth that you're related to Lucky Luciano.
It does, and it's something that has been researched, has been documented, has been on Ancestry, it has been indulged in Family Tree, something that has been shared with Duke, one of my closest friends.
A friend of ours, he'll stand up tall. Through gunfire smoke, he'll never fall. With heart of gold and steel resolve, a mystery we'll never solve. A mystery